Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talk of the Town. Tonight we have our panel back, and we also have a guest of our panel who's been here before. And I'll introduce Len Lucci, who is a lawyer and represents the city of Bowie and Annapolis. And he's going to give us a rundown on what's happened in Annapolis and what good things happened for the city. Of course, on my immediate right is the mayor of the city of Bowie, who likes to tell me to do this to people, that he's won the last election by 88.8% of the vote. He doesn't want me to say anything else about him or the good things he's done. He just says, say again, 88.8% of the vote went for Mayor Fred Robinson. On my left is Lynn Scarpon. Lynn Scarpon is a regular panel member. Lynn is a lawyer, former Register of Wills. She has a practice where that if you need help in a state, in an estate or wills or in that area, she's the one you should go to. She is also advisor to the comptroller of the state of Maryland. And since we're just through the tax season, Lynn is going to tell us why you didn't get a big enough return and what happened to the money. But outside, I think we'll open up with, as I said, with Len, who represents the city. How did the city of Bowie do in Annapolis? And did we do well, fair, or too bad?
The city did as well as it could have done under the circumstances, after the state experiencing the worst recession since the Great Depression, and the first time in my memory where the state budget actually went down from the previous year instead of up. Cities in in Maryland get less aid than counties do. They get it in two categories: one, road money, and the other one is police money. And last fiscal year, the road money was cut by 90%. The police money was cut by 35%. This coming fiscal year, it's going to be the same. It's not going to be any worse because there's not much left to take, but it's going to be the same. And hopefully in future years we'll start ramping back up. But that was the big discussion, was how to balance the budget, which the Constitution requires. There's also the capital budget, one-time things that are paid for by general obligation bonds. And out of the capital budget, $1 million is going to go to Bowie State University to put up new turf on the field, and $80,000 are coming to help out the Allen Pond redevelopment project. Another law that passed that will affect Bowie is with regard to speed cameras. Last year, the legislature allowed speed cameras at work zones and school zones, and there's question since then about, can the city put up speed cameras on county roads within city limits by school zones. And this new law sets up a way that the county and the city can work that out so that they could do that. Another interesting law that will help out the city is has to do with motor vehicle violation tickets. Right now, if you don't pay the ticket, you automatically get a court date. What happens is there's just countless numbers of people who don't show up to court, and the police officers have to show up there. They get paid overtime, and it costs a lot of money. We're the only state that has it that way. The new law will say that you have to request the court date, and if you don't request the court date, the police officer won't show up. So that'll help with police time and court time. The hospital has been a concern in the past several years, the Prince George's Hospital system, because it has just a few days of cash to exist, and it's been teetering on the edge. And a couple of years ago, the legislature enacted the new laws establishing a Prince George's Hospital Authority to find a purchaser for it. This legislature did not change that law, so the hospital authority will go out of business on May 22nd. But there is $15 million of state money in the state budget to help the transition for the hospital to go to whoever the new manager or owner is, and we'll find out who that is shortly. There's been discussions with the University of Maryland Medical System, which would be a tremendous shot in the arm to help make it a teaching hospital. And then finally, we were following the issue all throughout the session of the Bowie training facility, because the owners of the 3 tracks in Maryland had the 3 places up for auction: Pimlico, Laurel, and Bowie. And the auction never happened, and a new parent company bought it and said in the press that they might be interested in developing it. Fortunately, we've had in law since 1982 a law that says that that land has to be used as a thoroughbred training facility. And so if the new owners want to do anything with that land, and there's not much they can really do with that land, they have to come to the legislature and get a change in the law, which is not going to happen unless there's a real agreement, understanding that's in the best interest of the people of this community. So it was a pretty active session. Of course, 90 days, 90% of the work happens in the last 10 days, human nature being what it is. But it's over, and that's a good thing.
Oh, great.
Yeah, you're smiling now. That's good.
Mayor, what do you think? What is some of the good news?
Well, I think there was some good news. The good news for me is that the state is continuing to make good progress in getting itself out of its long-term financial doldrums. You know, if you look at some of the numbers that came out this week, that there's actually been a really positive turnaround in terms of jobs created versus jobs lost. So I think Maryland is now on the right track, you know, to pull ourselves out. And when Maryland does that, then the rest of the state will move along in a positive thing as well. So I think that's good. I think some of the things that Len highlighted are helpful. The big concern obviously is the cut in aid. You know, we lost $2 million in the Highway User Fund loss, which duplicates the $2 million loss last. So that means that's a hole that we have to fill. Because the roads and streets still have to be repaired and maintained, so we've got to cover that loss in some other fashion. There was one improved area, or one interesting area. We had some discussions with the state vis-a-vis some new improvements in our relationship with the Planning Commission. There was one bill that was put on the table to create a task force to take a long-term objective look at the commission, what it does, why it does it, how it does it, what its priorities are, who selects priorities, and that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, the Planning Commission was able to pretty much gut that process, and it really didn't accomplish what it did. And then I guess coincidentally, the legislature adopted a bill to put a cap on the money that Park and Planning can tax our citizens on. And so that has a positive benefit, because homeowners in the city now that pay, I think, something like 28 cents per $100 of tax goes to Park and Planning. That'll be capped starting in July, I guess. Also, that will lead to a short-term and a mid-term reduction in the amount of taxes we pay to Park and Planning, which, from my perspective, is definitely a good thing. But all in all, like I said, it's a challenge. You know, the interesting thing is Len's right. When I can sit back and watch Len from day one go up there with a big smile on his face and a cheery mood, to watching him go through these cycles of week after week, you know, where his shoulders start sloping and he starts dragging down, and, you know, the phone messages are, hello?
It's like the reverse of the evolution chart.
Yeah. Yeah. But all in all, I think it was an interesting, you know, some things I was disappointed in terms of like the Planning Commission. I was disappointed in, you know, the tax distribution on highway user funds. You know, the question we'll be getting is, well, if you're going to tax the automotive consumer by gasoline taxes, and then you're not going to use that for the purpose it was intended, then I think the intellectually honest thing is to either reduce the tax or give the tax money back, or put the money to the use it was intended. But that's not the reality.
Right, because it's not really a grant, it's not a gift, it's actually our share of the gas tax money for vehicles that are used on city roads. It's something coming to us. It's our share versus county roads versus state roads, and that was just taken away.
Wow. Len, what about tax time? It's over. How did you advise the comptroller?
Did we make any money?
I don't think we did.
The state gave back a lot of money this year, but that's a good thing.
Sure.
And the comptroller was very proud of the fact, and I know you heard all these reports nationally where states were holding on to the money longer because either they didn't have it to refund it or they wanted to invest it for a while before they refunded it. Maryland did great as far as getting money back into people's hands.